reflect my talk, the hours burn, bleeding for this night to end. A part of me begging to go back to sleep. It sure is easy, but not for me. So here I am, with all I have, waking up, facing what's in front of me. I won't back down, I can't stop now. I'm waking up, so I can start to dream. You're not worthless. You have purpose. Wake up, see it. Time to dream it. So here I am, with all I have. I'm waking up, I'm facing what's in front of me. I won't back down, I can't stop now. I'm waking up, so I can start to dream. So here I am, with all I have. I'm waking up, I'm facing what's in front of me. I won't
Well, good evening, folks, or good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Quincy Kane here, and this is live stream number 182. And for this stream, some of you know, fairly recently, I released a new song called Farewell to Fear. And for this stream, we're going to be breaking it down. I'll give you a little snippet here. This is what our screen's going to look like. We're just going to be hanging out, just having some good conversation, and I'm going to be breaking down what went into making this song and talking about how do you make a song that has like that really big, punchy sound and has such an atmosphere or a vibe to it. That's kind of the cool thing about this track. It's very vibey, but it also hits really hard. And so we're just going to kind of have some fun looking at all the different layers, looking at the drum layers. I think you'll notice that there's some other pretty cool percussive instruments in there. There's some really cool stuff going on with the vocal layers and some interesting guitar stuff too. We've got some clean guitars, and just really excited to kind of dive in and just share with you what all went into the process of making this song. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. They don't all have to be music related. If you just have some fun conversational questions, that's fine as well. But we're definitely looking forward to diving in. And definitely looking forward to chatting with you guys. Waiting for a few more people to show up, just because I kind of have sort of a fun story that happened this week for me. I had a bit of an adventure on Tuesday, and I want to share it with you all, but hoping for more people to be here to hear the story. Let me catch up with what's going on in the chat right now. We got Jack. I played mini putt, I guess putt with my social group on Tuesday. It was fun, but so hot, and I think my sunburn actually got a sunburn. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty rough. That sounds fun, though. I definitely enjoy a good game of putt-putt. Played some of that with my family fairly recently. We went on a little mini vacation, and getting to play that, it's fun. I enjoy putt-putt. But yes, definitely be careful in the heat. I think I've told the story before, but in case I haven't, I had quite the experience back in high school. There's the man. There's Julian. Hey, how's it going, Julian? Appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to show you that song in just a bit here. But tell me how your week's been. Let me know how things are going. And I've got a guitar here. I'm going to share that Flyleaf song with you in just a moment here. So we were just talking about sunburn. Be careful. It's getting hot in the summer. One time when I was back in high school, I went to a smaller school. I went to a private school. So when we had our senior trip, we were able to invest a bit more money and go on like a big trip. So we got to go to the Dominican Republic. Now, there were two things to the trip. Half of it was a mission trip. We got to do some mission work and help out some of the locals there. I think we did some work at an orphanage there. But it wasn't all mission work. There was definitely some fun, some vacation stuff. We got to hang out at the beach, visit places, eat a lot of different great food, and just have fun swimming. But when we went to the Dominican Republic, you got to keep in mind that's near the equator. You know, that's like Central America. We were coming from. Where were we coming from? Oh, it was winter. You know, we're coming from America. We're coming from Virginia, and it's winter where we were at when we went to the Dominican Republic. So we're all pale, you know, and all of a sudden we're going to like just blistering hot weather. So we had a great time. I remember we were having fun on the beach, and it was time to eat. I remember putting my shirt on, went in, ate some great food, and then we were all hanging out by the pool, and I took my shirt off, and it was like this horrific reveal. I just looked like crab meat. Like it was all white right here, and then the rest of me was just red. Like this white strip down my arm, the rest of me was red. We all got sunburned so bad, and we would spend the evenings just putting aloe on each other. But thankfully, it wasn't enough to ruin the trip. It kind of made for a good, like, memorable experience. Thankfully, it did not, you know, ruin the trip. It was still fun. It was probably one of the best trips I've ever been on, honestly. But that was definitely the moment where I was like, it's just not worth it, man. Like, getting sunburned sucks because it takes forever to heal. So I, just put some sun lotion on. So there we go. That's my story about the sun. Becky, good to see you. Hey, Quincy, I'm glad your voice sounds fine after the concert. You know, it's kind of funny. It was so fun singing along, and I'm going to tell you guys about that. It was so fun singing along. And I was conscious of that because it's so easy to scream out loud. But I think, one, it was an acoustic concert, so it wasn't like blistering loud. You weren't like having to scream. And two, I was making more of a conscious effort to not scream and kind of just sing comfortably. And so surprisingly, I didn't lose my voice at the show. Julian, you might like this as well. So Becky, meet Julian. Julian had commented on a video I posted a while back. I did a tutorial for the song All Around Me by Flyleaf. Flyleaf's one of my favorite bands, really influential to my sound and the songs that I write. And Becky, is a Breaking Benjamin fan. I'm a Breaking Benjamin fan as well. And Becky, I just got to say thank you. I wouldn't even have known about the concert if I hadn't heard from you. So here's the story. Becky tells me that there's a show in my area. I live in Virginia, and I'm not far from Richmond. In Richmond, Virginia, Ben Burnley from Breaking Benjamin was going on tour, and he was going with Lacey Sturm and her husband Josh, and they were doing an unplugged tour. And it was in my area, and I was like, I got to do this. I got to get out. I got to go be a part of this show. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. I was thinking maybe Lacey was going to open up with a few songs, and then Breaking Benjamin was going to come out, and they were going to do like an acoustic set, and then Lacey would come out and join them for a few songs, because maybe they did a collaboration on the song Dear Agony. And so I was expecting them to do that. But actually, it was a lot simpler than that. It was really just the three of them. It was just Ben, Lacey, and Josh. And Josh was playing acoustic guitar, and Ben and Lacey were singing vocals together, and they would take turns. They would alternate between doing a Breaking Benjamin song and then a Flyleaf song, and then Breaking Benjamin and Flyleaf. But it was so great. It was so simple, but it was just so fun to be with the crowd, and they were playing all the good songs and just singing along with them. And I don't know, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. It was a good experience for me. I'm trying to get out and meet more people. And so before the show started, I had to kind of muster up the boldness to just start conversations with people. But it's pretty easy. If you go to a show like that, I literally started every conversation the same way. I would go up to someone and I would ask, hey, have you ever seen Breaking Benjamin live before? And they'd say yes or no. If they said no, I was like, this is my first time also. If they said, some people were like, yeah, I've seen them like 4 times. Then I would just ask, like, have you ever seen them do something unplugged like this before? And they would give me an answer to that. And so I had some pretty good conversations and kind of got to exercise my social abilities. So that was nice, but this was definitely the highlight. So the show was good. Music was great. That was all fun. But when it was over and it was time to leave, I was heading out and I went by the tour bus. I could see the tour bus parked outside and there were people congregating. And I was kind of like, oh, they must be trying to meet Ben and Lacey and all that. And so I was thinking, let me head over there. Maybe I'll get a chance to meet him myself. And I went over, and part of me was thinking in my head, what if this is some kind of VIP thing? What if you were supposed to pay for a pass? But I figured if you needed a pass, I could just say, oh, I didn't realize you needed a pass, and then I would just have to leave. And so it's like, if they're not going to ask for a pass, I might as well stick around and see what happens. And I got to be honest, it tested my patience a little bit. I was kind of waiting, and I probably waited like a good 30, 45 minutes. Every now and then I would get like a brief conversation with someone else, but not everyone was really chatty. Most of them, they were either with somebody or they were kind of keeping to themselves. And part of me was kind of thinking like, it was late. I needed to get home. It's like, do I stick around? But I was like, I don't know. And I was almost going to leave. And then maybe it was a God thing, but this lady just turned around and just started talking to me. She's like, I actually saw Breaking Benjamin before they were big. And she was telling me how she saw Breaking Benjamin, I think 3 Days Grace, like talking about these great shows, but before anyone knew who they were. And if you wanted their CD, you had to get it like from their merch table. It wasn't like out in stores. And so I was talking with her. That ended up passing the rest of the time. And then sure enough, Ben Burnley and Lacey Sturm came out. So I got some pictures to show y'all, but there's me with Lacey Sturm. And man, it's so weird because I was in high school and Flyleaf was around, and she, that music was like the soundtrack to my life at the time. And I've seen her on the computer screen. I've seen her on the TV screen, like on music videos, and I've heard her voice so many times. But then it's like, you're just right there. And I got to shake her hand, and it's like, wow, she's a real person, And it's kind of weird because on one hand, it's like, they're just regular people like you and I, We almost kind of put them on this pedestal and kind of elevate them. But when you meet them, like, one, it's really impressive. It's amazing. The reason they've been able to build such a legacy is just because they had the boldness to just get out there and chase their passion and share it with people. And so that's, definitely something to commend. But at the same time, you and I think sometimes we look at people like that, like they're inaccessible or like we can't do what they did. And I don't know, they're just regular people like you and I. They just had the boldness to go after their passion. So it was, she was so sweet. And I tried to be respectful of their time and the other people wanting to meet them. So I only talked with each of them about a couple minutes. But there's Lacey right there. And then here is Ben. Got to meet him as well. He was really cool. And Richmond was actually the first place for the show. So they were kind of, they were pretty transparent about like, hey, this is our first time doing this. I don't even think they've done this kind of unplugged tour before, like just a single guitar. So they're like, you know, we're feeling things out. They actually ran out of songs. They were like, hey, guys, just to let you know, we're going to run out of songs. We're not, you know, we thought we had enough songs for the set. And I can relate because whenever I was doing my acoustic stuff, I always would run out of songs quickly. So they ended up improvising a few covers. They did like a brief cover of Something in the Way by Nirvana, and they did Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, and they did a Silverchair song also. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. He was nice too. I talked to him. I told him, I was like, hey, if you need more songs, you should do Rain and you should do Forget It. And he actually seemed to kind of like the suggestion of Forget It. He's like, oh yeah, that'd be kind of a neat one. He's like, but that song's actually harder than it sounds. And I knew what he meant because the song changes keys like constantly throughout. So yeah, there's Ben right there. I thought you'd like to see that picture, Becky. And then once again, there was Lacey. So that was definitely the highlight. So I'm glad I stuck around and got to meet them and then headed home. So that happened on Tuesday. And it's just kind of funny to think, like, if I just stayed home, you know, that never would have happened, you know. So it's pretty cool that got to meet, that happened. So let me catch up with the chat here. And then I got a song for you, Julian. Let's see here. Yeah, Julian was saying, all right, I've been good. Just to know, what tuning is the song in so I can tune before the lesson? The tuning is going to be in drop D. Yep, so just like standard E, but just tune that low E string down to D. It's going to be in drop D tuning. Let's see here. Then some hellos happening. Becky was saying, I can't keep my eyes open, but had to hear about the concert. Been awake since before dawn. Sheesh. Well, Becky, by all means, you know, I always appreciate you tuning in. Do not feel like you have to stay up for the stream. I did want to tell you about the concert, so, you know, please get yourself some rest. If you hang out, great, but, you know, do what you need to do. You know, I always appreciate you tuning in, but don't, you know, you've been super consistent and I appreciate that. You know, it's okay if you need a little break and you need to get yourself some rest. So definitely take care of yourself. Let's see here. Becky's saying, so happy you got to meet them in person, Quincy. The pics were great. And then, yo, that's sick. Yeah, it was awesome. Again, it's so baffling. Like, I didn't wake up that morning thinking like, I'm going to meet Lacey Sturm. I'm going to meet Ben Burnley today. Like, I knew I was going to see their show, but I always figured like the stage was going to be between us and that'd be as close as I got to them. But sure enough, it's like, yeah, I got to meet them, got to shake their hands, got to introduce myself and just talk with them. So, yeah, it was, I don't know, it was awesome. It made for just it's amazing how, like, when you have the boldness to just kind of step out of your daily routine and kind of try something and like take a chance, you know, like it's amazing kind of what can happen. And so I don't know, I learned a lot of lessons from that experience and it was fun. So definitely like a nice highlight that I'm going to look back on for this year. So, so Becky, thank you. You know, again, I wouldn't even have known about that show. I never even would have gone if you didn't tell me. So seriously, like, thank you. I really appreciate the suggestion. Keep an eye out for some other shows for me. You know, I'll see if I can get around to them. I think Chevelle is coming fairly close in August. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one. Maybe I can get out and see Chevelle. Indy, appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Much appreciated. Thank you for the hearts, Becky. Yep, tuned in drop D. Julian's got it. Awesome. All right, guys, so real quick, we are going to break down the song, but let me introduce you to Julian real quick again. He had seen a video I had posted, you know, speaking of Flyleaf, I had done, you know, I don't really do lesson videos anymore, but the ones that are kind of in the same ballpark of music I do, you know, the hard rock, alternative metal kind of stuff, so bands like Flyleaf or Chevelle, Breaking Benjamin, anything in that kind of ballpark, I kept those videos up, and you know, in case anyone wanted to learn them. And Julian was asking if I knew the song I'm Sorry. Now, I hadn't learned it, but I've heard it many times. So I was like, well, let me give it a listen. And it's simple, but at the same time, it is pretty tricky. So I'm going to give you that heads up. It's not like, again, I guess it's not hard to play. It just gets a little complex with the timing and stuff. So we'll talk about that. Let me grab a guitar over here. I usually play in drop C tuning, but this song is in drop D, so that's why I've got this guitar. This is actually my brother-in-law's guitar. He typically plays in standard E, so I grab this one and just tune to drop D. Yep, so. All right, here we go. So Julian, this one goes out to you. Going to try to make this a little quick, but just going to do a little guitar lesson real quick. And hey, Blue, appreciate you tuning in. What's good, man? Shout out from Denmark over here. Hey, appreciate you tuning in. Blue, I can't remember if you're a fan of Flyleaf or Breaking Benjamin or not, but I was talking about, I went to see them. It was Lacey Sturm and Ben Burnley. They did an Unplugged show in Richmond on Tuesday. I went to see it, and here's some pictures. I actually got to meet them after the show. So there's me and Lacey right there, and then here's a picture of me and Ben as well. So I wasn't expecting to meet them after the show, but it ended up working out. It was just a brief interaction, you know, like I only talked with them for a couple minutes, but it was still really cool that I got to meet them. So, all right, here we go. Here is a guitar lesson for how to play the song I'm Sorry by Flyleaf. We're actually going to start with the chorus because the chorus and the verse follow a similar shape and pattern, but they're just played slightly different. So the chorus is going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Close my eyes myself. I only wanted you to see. No matter what, you're gonna break my shell. No matter what, you're gonna break my shell. Okay, so mess that up a little bit, and hopefully you can hear it. All right, let me know if my guitar needs to be loud or anything like that. So what we're doing here, hey Fab, hope you're doing well. So we're just playing on the 2nd fret, just a simple power chord, 1 finger on that 2nd fret, and then we're gonna jump up to this 5th fret. I like to use my ring finger there. And we're kind of going back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we're doing an octave here. So what that is, it's kind of like a power chord on that 2nd fret, but you just leave out that ring finger. So it's just your pointer finger and your pinky, and you just mute all the other strings. So, and we're just going to strum that once and slide up, and then back down. So I'm only strumming twice, but we're playing 3 notes. 1, 2, 3, and just strum, strum. There we go. So one more time. It's in a 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just like that. But again, we're kind of playing in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just like that. Okay? So it does that twice. And then technically, you're just going to hit the open D, just those open strings, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So all you're doing is just that open D, and then you're going to go to the 3rd fret, just like that. Now technically, they have 2 guitars, so while one guitar is playing that part, the other guitar is doing this little lead part, this. And, you know, it's 2 separate parts, but if you wanted to, you could put them together. So while you're playing the open strings, just put your middle finger on the 4th fret of that G right there. And we're just going to go back and forth from the 4th fret to the 5th fret, just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you just hit it while you're strumming. And then you add your pointer finger, and you do one more. 1, 2, 3, just like that. So. And then you just repeat all that. No matter what, you're gonna build my shell. And then you end with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 3, you hit that note, and then just hit the chord by itself. Bum, bum, just like that. Okay, so that's the chorus, you know, it just repeats whenever it does that. Now the verse is very similar, but here's where things get a little complicated. So the verse kind of sounds like this. Okay, so if you want to play it exactly like the album, the guitars take a lot of breaks. So the guitars play that first riff, and then they kind of just mute the strings, and if you listen, they're kind of just making noise, like. and then it'll kick back in. Now the reason the guitars are doing that is because the bass is playing it. The bass continues to play that little riff, that. Okay, so if you want to play it like they do, I guess it's kind of simple. Really all you do is just and the timing's a little weird. You might have to listen to the song to get that right. But if you want it to be a little more satisfying, like if you're just going to play the guitar part by yourself, then what I would suggest, a way you can modify it, just play that first riff. And then just go into palm mute. So you can play the single notes and kind of mimic the bass a little bit. So you can sort of play the guitar when you've got the guitar playing, and then switch to sort of a bass part when the guitar's taking a break. Now, all we're doing is those same chords, but it's kind of a just 1, 2, up, up, a couple up hits there, 1, 2, up, up. And then we're just playing those octaves just back and forth, and then 1, 2, just like that. Up, up. That's all it is. And then you could just do the same thing with palm mutes. And then it kind of repeats that, and what's a little tricky, I don't have the song on me, but eventually it's going to open up to just that low D, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It goes from the open to the 3rd fret, and it'll kind of build up, and then back into it. I think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it'll go back. But again, sometimes the timing changes there. So sorry I'm not specific enough, but those are the notes, and if you listen to the song, you can kind of work out the exact timing. Now, if you want to have some fun, they do kind of some cool stuff on the harmonics. Again, if you do a harmonic on the 5th fret, on the 4th string down, right there, and then on the 7th fret, those two notes are right next to each other, but they play them at the same time. So on its own, it might sound kind of bizarre, but when you play it with the track, it kind of creates this cool like tension, this kind of suspense, and then it kicks back in. So they'll usually, when they build up on that open D, while they're doing that, they'll kind of play those harmonics there. So it'll go through that, and then the second verse, pretty much the same thing. And then it'll go, I'm only 10 years old. Close my eyes and brace myself. I only noticed your face. So you just let it ring out. Same chords, you just let it ring out. 3rd fret. And you can make some noise. And then kick right back into it. All right, so when we get to the bridge is very, again, the whole song's very bass driven, so the bass is kind of driving it. And to be honest, you could just switch to a clean tone, and let me see if I can. I don't really have like a clean tone here. I'm trying to see if I can. All right, so got rid of some of the distortion, made it a little cleaner. But you could kind of just put on some delay and just kind of do like a 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or sorry, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Like the guitar part's pretty simple, you know, it's kind of just hitting sort of notes around those chords. But again, if you wanted to modify it, make it something a little more satisfying to play on its own, just play that 2nd fret and just kind of pick back and forth. And then the 5th fret. And then a power chord on the A little out of tune. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th fret. Here. The story unspoken. And then we're gonna go 2, 5, 4. I love you and 5, 5, 7. I understand 5, 7, 7. I don't know myself. And then just a power chord on that 3rd. So 3, 5, 5. And then you can turn the distortion back on. 1, 2, 3. Close my eyes and brace myself. Yeah, so one more time. That's just that 2nd fret, just back and forth. 5th fret. And then 5, 7, 7. 3, 5, 5. And then 4, 5, or sorry, 2, 4, 5. 2, 5, 4. 5, 5, 7. I understand myself. 1, 2, 3. Close my eyes, embrace myself. I only noticed your face. No matter what, you're gonna build my shell. No matter what, you're gonna break my shell. I'm done healing. I'm done healing. So the ending, you just go back to that verse riff. You're just gonna do. Yeah, same thing, verse riff, ba-na, up, back and forth, ba-na, and you're just playing that 5th fret. You can get those 3 notes, just harmonics on there, so just lightly touch it. And it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And it just ends like that. And that's all there is to it. So hopefully that's good. Julian, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if that was all right. I know that's not like super perfect, but hopefully that kind of gets you in the ballpark, and certainly enough to play along with the song. But there you go. That's how you play I'm Sorry by Flyleaf. Definitely a cool song. If you guys haven't heard it, check it out. All right, I know we had a few other people tune into the chat, and I was in the middle of giving a guitar lesson, so hopefully, thank you very much. Yeah, my pleasure, Julian. I hope it helps, and I hope you have fun playing it. If you're confused about any parts, let me know, and I'll try to explain them a little better. But hopefully that's enough. Yeah, Merc, I don't know if you're still out there, like the semi-hollow body. I was just using it because it's my brother-in-law's guitar, and it's tuned in standard E. Julian was wanting to learn a song that's in drop D. My guitar is tuned in drop C, so I needed a different guitar to use for that. Heavy distortion, yep, that's right, Fab. All right. Cool stuff. All right. I'm going to practice it. Have a good stream. Hey, thanks. Feel free to stick around if you'd like. We're going to have a look into a song. I don't know if you've heard it yet, Julian, but this is actually a song that I put out recently, and we're going to do a little breakdown of just what went into it. We're going to listen to the song first, so if you want to stick around and hear it real quick, and then and certainly while I'm chatting, you can practice. It might be hard to practice while listening to music, but guys, this is a song I just put out called Farewell to Fear. Let's have a listen to it, and then we're going to break down what went into the song, how I got it to sound the way it does. So here we go. Let's have a listen, and feel free to ask any questions you have about it. This is Farewell to Fear.
Only wanted to keep me safe. faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. Waiting for me. Waiting for me. Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
All right, so that is Farewell to Fear. That is my latest release. It's currently available on Spotify or wherever you like to listen to music. And the music video is coming out this Monday, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Would love for you guys to check it out and really appreciate it if you'd leave a like and a comment and share it so more people can see it as well. But let's have a breakdown. I was really pleased with this song. Again, when you're songwriting, it's not necessarily hard to come up with song ideas, but you come up with more ideas than you can actually pull off. You know, like you could come up with an idea every day and that'd be 365 ideas. But when it comes to producing a song, for me, I can maybe produce a song in about 4 weeks. And even then, I usually like to produce a little bit of promotional content as well. I like to shoot a music video for it and that kind of thing. So really, I give myself about 8 weeks to produce a song. So 8 weeks for a song, that's 6 songs a year. So if you've got 365 ideas, but you can only pick 6 for the year, which 6 do you choose? You know, you got to pick your best ideas. And usually I kind of go by 2 criteria. I definitely go by my favorites, but I try to pick the ones that I think are going to be well received. It's kind of weird because we're in a different time where, you know, there used to be kind of a gateway for music. There used to be radio and TV, and there were certain people that would choose what songs you heard. You know, you didn't really get to just listen to anything on demand. And even buying CDs, sometimes you'd have to just take a chance and buy a CD and hope it was good, you know. But now we live in a time where you can just access any kind of music. But either way, the point I'm making with that is I grew up in that time where there was just a certain sound, you know, like you could kind of tell if a song had the potential to be a hit. There's just a certain sound to songs like, oh yeah, I could hear that on the radio, or I could see that being a music video on MTV, or I could see that being the soundtrack in a video game or in a movie or something like that. There was a certain something to certain songs that just made like good singles to be out there. So that's something I've tried to do. I try to pick some of my favorite ideas that I think have that single quality, because that's all I'm doing. You know, I'm releasing songs, so I got to make it count. I got to release like my best ideas. But sometimes, how do I say this? Sometimes my favorite ideas aren't always like the best singles. You know, sometimes there's an idea that I really like, but it's not necessarily the best single. And for what it's worth, you know, just because a song is a good song doesn't mean it's a good single. Like, those are two different things. So where I'm getting at is sometimes you listen to an album and there might be songs on that album that you love, but you never would have heard it on the radio. You only hear that song if you go deeper with the artist and you get their album. One example, this is just off the top of my head, but Killswitch Engage is one of my favorite bands. I think one of their singles was the song My Curse, which is a great song. It's a good one to kind of put out there and kind of has high energy and kind of gives you a good taste of what the band's all about. But one of my favorite songs from that same album is a song called Desperate Times. And if you listen to the song, you can kind of tell, like, it's not a song that you would release as a single. It doesn't have that sound that you would hear on the radio or something like that, but I still love it. It's still like a great song, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, sometimes I call it the number 2 track. You know, sometimes like an album starts off like the first track is so high energy, and then the next track is like still a banging track, but it's not like the single. It's not something you'd hear on the radio. It's just another really good song I don't know. It's hard to articulate. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. The main point, I say that because I actually kind of feel that way about this song. I love, this is one of my favorite ideas. I love Farewell to Fear. It's one of my favorite songs I've written so far. But at the same time, like, I think it's catchy, but I don't know that this is a song that you would hear on the radio or something. To me, this sounds like it would be a really good song on an album, you know? Like, on an album, you'd have your hits, and then this would be one of the songs on there, and it would still be really good, but this isn't like the one song that you would normally hear. However, we are in a different time. We are in a time where people are looking for kind of unique sounds and stuff, so who knows? Main point is when I choose the songs that I'm working on, I kind of try to balance it. I kind of alternate between picking songs that I think have that potential to be like a hit, and then I pick the ones that I think are still good songs and are just my favorite ideas and the ones that I want to do. And for what it's worth, you never really know. Even you hear popular artists talk about this all the time, that sometimes there's a song that they think's going to be a hit and it doesn't quite take off, and then sometimes there's a song that they're not sure anyone's going to like it, and that's the one that blows up unexpectedly. So you never really know. You just kind of make your best assessment. By the way, Jack, I do appreciate the applause there. And if anyone tuning in, don't be shy and say hello. But if you ever have any questions about this song, or just music in general, producing songs, writing songs, or even just some random questions, you want to ask for fun, let me know. Okay, we're going to mute the vocals for now, and let's just kind of look at what's going on with the music. One thing that's really neat about this track is the drums and bass are actually very simple. So when I first wrote this song, it started with the guitar. I wrote that main riff. Let me go ahead and play that riff for you. So it just started with that riff, and not too hard to add drums and bass to that. So I just kind of liked the drive of it. There was kind of a cool drive, a little bit of a stompy feel to it. And, it was nice and heavy, but it still had kind of like some emotion to it, like some melody to it, even though it's just some chords that we're playing. So I really like the sound of those chords. And then I came up with this little dissonant melody that I could add over top of that. So that's what we get with the lead guitar here. And I like kind of the ambience and the atmosphere of that guitar. I like those notes. They create some dissonance. They're right next to each other, so they sort of create some tension. And again, kind of add like this cool emotion, but this cool tension as well. So here's basically what the main idea sounded like. And then, yeah, Jack commenting, I think so. I'm sure a lot of songs never get made, even though the artist may really want to share them. And it probably goes both ways. Again, and a big part of that is usually artists are working with labels, so the label might have an opinion on which songs to release and which ones not to. One kind of famous story, if you've ever heard the song Love Song by Sarah Bareilles, she was trying to avoid the cliche of writing a love song, and the label wanted her to do a love song, so she kind of wrote like kind of a, what do you call it, like a satire a little bit. She said, she wrote that song, I'm not gonna write you a love song, and that's basically, so she kind of played off the fact that she didn't want to write one, but they were suggesting or requesting that she does write a love song. She kind of played off of that, and sure enough, it did become a hit, so that's kind of how it goes sometimes. All right, so here's the interesting thing about the song. That's the main riff, and then I came up with this clean part that could happen in the verses. We'll listen to that clean guitar real quick. So the guitar's got some variation, it's got that heavy riff and then it's switching to clean. But if you listen to the drums and bass, this is what I was getting at. Check this out. Here's the drums and bass in the verse. And then here they are in the chorus. In case you didn't notice, they sound pretty much the same. And that's a bit different for me. Usually the verses and the choruses are drastically different, But this song, I don't know why, it just kind of worked out that way. If we look at the drums, like this is just what sounded best. So the drums, it's got that open hi-hat, and so that creates a lot of sustain, kind of gives a lot of air to the track. So it's a good driving beat. And then in most situations, when we go into the verse, I would usually contain it. I would make it smaller. So usually we'd go to a closed hat. We might play a similar beat or maybe a different beat because it's a different riff, but it'd be more like a... But in this case, it sounded better to just leave it open. So really, the only difference between the verses and the chorus has a few more cymbal hits and like maybe a few more little fills and things like that. I think the verses stay on the hat a bit more, don't hit quite as many cymbals. And the verses are a little bit softer, like the drums aren't being hit quite as hard. But to be honest, it's kind of just a loopy beat. It's a good beat. And so I kind of feel sorry for the drummer on this one because there's not quite as much variation. You can hear like a few changes, so check it out, like this first part. You're going to hear the cymbals. That psh, psh, the splash is there. And then I think there's a little the snare there, bop boop bop, that little bop boop bop. And then we do that first one again, the splashes, psh, psh. And then we got a fill here. So there's like a little bit of variation that happens every measure, but it's kind of the same beat. Let's compare that real quick to the verse. The verse is probably going to be a little bit simpler than that. So yeah, just staying on the hat. And there, staying on the hat, I think last time when it did that snare, that bop boop bop, it hit the china or the splash with it. Like right here, it'll hit the splash. Yeah, that psh, psh. But here, it's doing the same thing, but it's just doing it with the hat. There you go. So not as much cymbals, not as much splash. And then I think it does a fill here. No, it doesn't. It just stays on that bop boop bop. So not even a fill. Again, staying pretty simple, pretty low key. And then it's probably going to do like a big doom doom before it goes into the chorus. Yeah, it did bop boom, and then it goes into the chorus. So it's kind of the same beat, but the variation comes from like how many, there's a little more variation in the chorus, and then it's a bit more simplified in the verses. So, it's just one of those things, like it's not that fancy, but it's what sounded best for the song. Now, if we look at the bass, we kind of have a similar situation. The bass is just playing that riff. And that's pretty much it. I try to create a few variations, playing like some octaves. So there, when the drums do the fill, the bass goes do-do-do, does that little descent. And then same thing, the bass, it just gets a little bit quieter. And I think I turned the crunch down a little bit. So see if you can hear this. It's pretty subtle, but even though it's playing the same thing in the verse, there's not quite as much distortion on the bass. So right here. And then here's the chorus. So it's pretty subtle, but like there's a little more grit and dirt in the chorus, and then in the verse, there's still some grit in there, but it's not quite as crunchy, not quite as aggressive. So, it's a little more contained. There I did the octave, boom, boom. And then here I'll probably do the descent. Oh, that time I went up, do-do-do. And I'll probably do the octave here, boom, boom. Yep. And then I'll probably do another, I think it's just a 1-2 thing here. Yeah, I did the octave again there. So again, you throw in the variation where you can, but again, the poor bassist and the poor drummer, they're kind of just doing the same thing for most of the song. Now you can hear just listening to the drums and the bass, that gets maybe a little redundant on its own, but that's the thing. What keeps it from sounding redundant is the guitar. The guitar parts come in and bring the variation. So even though those parts, they're kind of holding the foundation, and even though they're a bit of a loop, kind of going over and over again, it's the guitar parts that bring in the variation so that you can tell there's a big distinction between what is the chorus and what is the verses. So let's have a look at those guitar parts. So obviously we have the heavy guitar during the chorus. And then the guitar cuts out. And then we go to these clean guitars. Now I say clean, but they do have a little bit of kind of a crunchy sound to them. Now what I really like about these, again, they just create like an atmosphere. So here's a little, which makes sense because they kind of give me like Silent Hill vibes. If you've ever heard the Silent Hill soundtrack, they'll do a lot of stuff with guitar, like those kind of crunchy, clean guitars like that. So it definitely kind of gave me some Silent Hill vibes. But here's what they sound like together. Now, here's what's interesting. That part of the song, whenever I come up with an idea, I actually wrote the music for this, like the basic idea, probably years ago. The song is new. It wasn't finished, but the basic idea, which was this riff and this, like the verse and the chorus, no words, this was it. And whenever I come up with an idea, I always come up with a temporary title. And usually for the title, I'll kind of listen to the track and just whatever images kind of pop into my mind or whatever it makes me think of, I'll come up with a temporary title. So the temporary title for this song was called A Lonely Snowfall. And the reason for that, like when I hear this, there's this visual that pops in my mind. So I live on a farm actually, and at our farmhouse, we've got this really long telephone pole with a street lamp at the top of it. So technically it's not a street lamp because we're not on a street, we're out in the farm, but that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like a really high like street lamp, like what you'd see out in the city. And I have this vision in my head from years ago, or really I see it pretty much anytime it's winter. Whenever we get snow, there's something about at nighttime when that light is on and the ground is covered in snow. I remember seeing like the ground just lightly covered in snow and these little snowflakes falling, and that street lamp is kind of illuminating this one space. Like it's a pretty big space, but this one space, and then it gradually fades off into darkness. So it's almost like this light coming from the street lamp, this gentle snowfall kind of happening, and then just darkness surrounding everything else. So that image, there's something kind of calming but kind of eerie about that. There's something kind of magical and atmospheric, and it's kind of scary and thrilling and yet like calming and peaceful at the same time. I don't know. So when I hear that, like when I hear this, that's kind of the visual, just like the gentle snow falling down and just kind of that street lamp and then just darkness kind of around it, And sort of that sense of isolation. So that's how I came up with the name A Lonely Snowfall, and that was kind of the temporary title. Now, one other kind of neat thing about that, maybe you've seen, I did post a short for this song, and I posted a clip of the the music video. And also, if you've seen the album cover for this, the album cover is very much inspired by that image. It's not quite the same thing. I might actually be able to show it to you guys. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can bring it up. But when I was trying to come up with a concept for the music video, I was thinking, it'd be really cool. Like I have a visual in my head. I can think of that, that street lamp and the snow falling. But obviously, I can't control snow. I can't just go. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Sorry, I'm trying to look for this picture at the same time. I can't just create snow. I don't know how to do that. And I sort of had this idea. There we go. Let me see if I can find. There. I found the album cover. So I was trying to think of some other way to do it, but sure enough, it was late one night. It was dark outside, and I just kind of started playing with some of the lights, and I went outside and tried turning on some different lights. And I actually didn't film at the exact. What is that? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to find it at the same time. Let me do one more thing real quick. Bring that up. Let me see if that helps. I hope I'm looking in the right place. That's not it at all. Okay. Maybe it's not window capture. Let me try something else. Just image. There we go. Sorry, I was making this harder than it had to be. Okay, so yeah, I just went outside and just kind of turned on some lights, and I was able to find another light that had kind of a similar effect, and that's sort of what inspired the imagery that I ended up capturing for the music video. So let me find the album cover real quick. And it's right here. Yep, that's it right there. All right, there we go. You should be able to see it. So yeah, if you just kind of look at that. So basically that's a light, at the edge of our house. And I found like the perfect spot where there's technically in the darkness, there's some trees there, and there's the front yard kind of goes around there. But at night, that stuff is blocked. So there's something really cool about just that single source of light and creating that little spotlight around me, and then just all the darkness, and something about that sense of isolation. Again, there's something kind of thrilling about it. But if you kind of listen to those clean guitars and just kind of look at an image like that, to me it's like that just creates the vibe, And then the guitars kind of change here, so this was really satisfying to do musically. So what's happening there, when the guitars are first playing, they're kind of playing almost these neutral notes, like they're just playing that C minor neutral kind of thing. And it's still going to hover around that C minor, that single note, that bum, bum, that note right there. But then it's going to kind of create some tension right here. That tension. It's like this note that kind of, that's really the best word for it, just kind of creates some tension. Almost gives it like a little dark twist, and then it resolves, it kind of releases, and then it gets tense again. And then it releases, and that sets us up for the chorus when we go back into that. And then, Jack made the comment, yet. As in for snow, I don't have a way to make snow yet, but yeah, maybe I'll have some access to that. I'm sure there are tricks. I know there are ways of creating artificial snow or something that looks like snow, even if it's not snow at all. But working by myself, I don't, even if I could find a way to do that, not sure I'd want to put the work into that. I wasn't, but it would be cool. Thrilling, but also kind of terrifying as well, the photo I meant. Yes. No, I knew you were talking about that. Yeah. And no, I think that's a fair word to use. I should say I'm what you might call terrifying, I might call thrilling. I'm not sure. Like, I'm a thrill seeker. And it's funny because people are different. Like, when it comes to like roller coasters, I'm like, I want the highest roller coaster. I want it to go fast. I want it to get my stomach. Like, I love the thrills. But my sister-in-law, she's the opposite. She wants kind of easygoing, like comfortable. Something like that sounds terrifying to her. So both words are kind of interchangeable. They're kind of the same thing, but it depends. So like for me, yeah, if you look at that image, to me, that says adventure. You know, to me, that is like, you know, that the fear of the unknown. That's what I find exciting. That's what I find kind of thrilling. And so that's very much me. I think I've told this story before that there's a trail, you know, from the old house where I used to live. There was a trail that would lead to our church through the woods, and I would sometimes take that trail to the church. And then sometimes I would stay at the church and I'd get caught up doing something and I would miss a ride home. And one time I missed a ride home and I don't think I could call. And I was like, or I just didn't want to bug like somebody. And so I was like, well, I guess I could walk home. And it was dark. And I actually walked through the woods at night and I found it exciting. And so when my birthday came around, I told my friends, hey guys, when y'all come over for my birthday, we gotta walk through the trail. And I remember we were walking through and my friends were like, Quincy, you did this by yourself at night? You know, they were kind of like baffled that I did it on my own because they found it terrifying, you know, but to me, I found it, you know, exciting. And so it is true. Yeah. There's definitely something kind of scary about that. But to me, that's what makes it thrilling and exciting. But that's kind of what the song is about. It's sort of like something really scary, but to me, it's really satisfying to explore that and go out there. But it's very easy, probably be a lot easier to just kind of stay where it's comfortable and stuff. So, you know, you're absolutely using the right vocabulary. It's definitely explaining. I'm Canadian. They kind of breed that out of us. Yeah, maybe so, you know. I get that. I used to do that when I worked in the driving range. Yeah, I'm sure that kind of makes sense too. But yeah, it's just, you know, people have different vibes and stuff, and that's me. You know, I'm excited about that. It's the same thing. I don't know if have you ever done those like scary walkthroughs? They do it around, like if you go to a theme park during like Halloween, usually the whole park will have like a Halloween theme, and sometimes they'll have these little experiences. It's like a haunted house walkthrough, and you walk through and it's got like scary music and like it's dark and it's got cool lighting and decorations, and then people will jump out and try to scare you and stuff. And I went with a group of friends and, you know, they were looking at me and they were saying, Quincy, you look like you're going through a walk in the park. Like I look like I'm just eating it all up and just enjoying it while everyone else is like, you know, freaking out and like just anticipating like what's around the next corner. And I don't know, that's just the way I'm wired. Like that stuff kind of excites me rather than scares me. So yeah, so that's kind of the vibe I got from these guitars. Now, another trick I like to use, and I've been using this more lately, I like to use pads to create more atmosphere. And pads are interesting because the way I use them, they're one of those things where you might not notice it when it's there, but you definitely notice it when it's gone. So I'm going to play the pad by itself. Lately, I've been using more pads in my courses. And then this, I can't remember if I did it for a mirror that was broken, but for this one, I definitely added another pad. No, I think I did it for a mirror. Now, I'm starting to use them in my verses too, but I like to use I use a different pad in the verse than I do in the chorus. So here's the verse pad. So you can hear it's this very kind of spacey, airy, kind of spooky, kind of haunting sound, you know? And that's what I was looking for. And usually for pads, most of the time they're just going to hold out one note. So I figure out what note do I want it to hold. And then I'll go through a few different pads and I just try to find the right one to add the atmosphere that I'm looking for. So I'll turn it on and off. I'll play it with the clean guitar. And it's pretty subtle, but you can hear how when it's there, it kind of puts the guitars in a space. It creates that kind of haunty kind of feel. And then when you turn it off, the guitars just sound a little kind of plain, like on their own. So here it is with the bass and drums. And again, I'll turn the pad on and off. And again, you really notice it if you're wearing like headphones. Depending what you're listening through, you might not even notice it that much. The other thing I like about pads, it's more than just a note. Notice it moves. Like it's only holding one note, but it kind of has like texture to it. It's kind of, you know, kind of, you know, sort of go up and then kind of sink back down. And so it kind of has some character to it, and it's such a simple thing, but when you add it, it kind of brings some movement to your song. Like any section of your song, just adding a simple pad like that can bring some movement, and it can be just this simple difference between something feeling kind of static and like it's a little boring, and then just adding a little bit of excitement, you know? I'm not going to say it's going to, the pad alone is the one thing that's going to make or break your song, but it's definitely some nice icing to add to your cake. Oh, yeah. And then Jack saying, oh, yeah, but I'm an Aspie. Strangers touching me freaks me out. Yeah, which I think in those walkthroughs, I don't know if they can actually touch you. They might not be permitted to. I'm not sure what the limitations are on that. I think usually they just jump out and spook you, but it depends, you know. It just depends on the scenario and the context. All right, let's see here. So when we get into the second half, again, the second half, this is where those clean guitars kind of change. They bring that tension. So right here, there's that tension. And then we do the same thing with the pads. The pad will go up a half step, and then sink back down. So there it goes up, and then back down. Up and down. So that kind of blends nicely with the guitar. So that pad's really helpful for creating the atmosphere. And then the last element, we have this lead guitar. Now, this lead guitar, I'll play it by itself first. It's actually the same part that you hear in the chorus, but it doesn't play quite as frequently. So when the song first kicks in, it's the same lead part. Actually, you know what? It might play exactly the same way. So I think that comes in again right here. There it is. Yeah, that's it. It just kind of comes in early. And then this is the chorus, and it's going to continue to play that. And again, the whole purpose of that is just to create some tension and like it's building up to something. So here's what all those elements sound like together. Here's the clean guitar, the pad, and the lead guitar creating tension. And then that sudden pause to kind of create like kind of that explosive moment when we're about to kick back into the chorus. And then one last time we'll listen to that with the drums and bass as well. And then, yeah, there's that brief pause that happens. And that's where the electric distorted guitars kick back in. So one thing that helps the song kind of hit hard and feel big, you need context. You know, if everything is big or if everything is loud, then nothing is loud. So in order to make something sound loud and something sound big, you need something small and quiet to kind of happen before it. So that's what we've got here in the verses. The drums and the bass, they're playing just a little bit softer. They're not drastically different, but we've got kind of these thin guitars, you know, just the lead guitar, the clean guitar, and the pad. You know, they're very, very thin. Like if you just listen to the guitars, it's kind of thin and small. And then when the electric comes in, listen how Like that, those electrics, they feel big and loud compared to the clean and the lead. So that's why when we kick back into the chorus, it kind of has some punch. Right here. Now this chorus, pretty much the same thing as the intro, just goes on a little bit longer. But let's look at this pad again. I'm using a different pad in the chorus. So the first pad is kind of soft, kind of airy and kind of haunting. For the choruses, I like to use something a little grittier, something that's going to blend in with the guitars nicely. But we still want the same objective. We're still adding air. We're kind of adding some nice top end and kind of breathing some life into it, but also creating that movement. Usually the synth has a nice texture. So here's what the synth for the chorus sounds like. It's going to pause. There it is. So again, it's just a single note, but you can hear it kind of moving, kind of. And again, it sounds kind of a little distorted, and that just blends nice with the distorted guitars and the distorted bass. And you can hear it's there. If I mute it, it's gone. So we'll add the drums back and we'll add the lead guitar. So I'll turn that pad on and off. Yeah, it's subtle, but again, it's one of those things that just kind of adds some movement. It keeps the track from sounding so static. You know, it gives it a little bit of movement and character and adds a little bit of top end to everything, making it kind of lifting it up a little bit. So I definitely like what those do. Hey, Silas, how's it going, man? Appreciate you tuning in. We're just breaking down the song here. Again, this is Farewell to Fear, the song I just released. If you have any questions, let me know. They can be about this song or just about songwriting or song production, whatever it might be. We have a question from Jack saying, when did you learn how to do all of this layering, Quincy? So it's been over the years. So I first got started. I'm going to adjust my lighting here. Yeah, sorry if I'm looking a little dark. Okay. Let's see here, and thanks for the hearts and the emojis and all that stuff. Silas, let me know how your week's been. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And also, Silas, let me share this with you real quick. You already commented, but yeah, here are some pictures from, where's it at? How come it's not showing up? Oh, you know what? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Here's me and Lacey, and then here's me and Ben. So that was a really cool experience. It was really cool being able to meet them. Okay, so Jack, here's how I learned all this. It was years ago. It was probably back when I was in high school. I was probably about 15 or something. You know, I'd learned how to play guitar. And probably my first experience was with just a keyboard. We had an electric keyboard that would let you record tracks. And you could record multiple instruments. So you just hit record and you play one part and then you stop. And then you hit record and you play another part and then you hit stop and you can blend them together. So that was kind of like my first time experimenting with different instruments and fitting them together to create like music from them. But then my sister started dating this guy who would later become my brother-in-law. So I don't think he was my brother-in-law yet, but he kind of had some knowledge about music and production and that kind of stuff. And he had a computer and he had Logic Pro, which is the software that I use. And he's the one who got me started. He showed me, he's like, yeah, check this out. He showed me how to make drum beats on here. And he showed me kind of how to use the equipment to plug in my guitar. So it's really thanks to him. And it really started simple. Like it used to be, I wouldn't even make my own drum beats. You can find drum loops. So those are pre-made beats. And I would find those pre-made beats and I'd put them in place first. And then I would write music and over top of that. So I'd record a guitar part over top of that. And then I would record bass too. I used to record bass rather than just programming it. And then you just plug in a microphone and I could record the vocals. And that was really the start. That's all there was, just drums, bass, and guitar and vocals, and you got a song. Now, did it sound very good? No. That took time learning how to get better at producing and learning different tricks. But there were, it was just kind of over time that you learn these things. A lot of it was from YouTube, and a lot of it just listening. So probably one of the main things I learned is that source tones are super important. Like how your guitar tone sounds, how your bass tone sounds, and how your drums sound before you do any kind of processing or editing. That's really important. You want them to sound as best as possible first. Then later, when you get into editing and you get into mixing and that kind of stuff, that's like putting the final polish on it and getting it to sound a lot better. So that was just from years of watching YouTube videos and experimenting and doing tests. Using references is really helpful. So I would listen to professional songs and compare my songs to them, and I would try to make my drums sound the same, try to make my guitar sound the same, and just project after project, just making little refinements until you finally dig into little sounds. I will say, when I think of music, like, again, this might seem kind of complicated. I sort of think of it as just a few layers. I really think of it, again, kind of like I'm sharing it here. Usually it'll start with just, like, let me go back to the intro real quick. Like, I'm just going to loop this first little section here. It really just starts with a guitar idea. Like, I'll just write something on the guitar. So that's where it starts, but then of course over time I learned how to make that guitar tone actually sound good, and I also learned about double tracking. So what you're hearing, that's actually not one guitar, that's two guitars. It's one guitar panned to the left and another guitar panned all the way to the right, but they're both playing the same part. So it starts with that, and then my brother-in-law taught me how to program drums, so you just need a drum beat for that. That's all you need. So I know how to play drums, so I can play this on the drums, but it's a lot more practical to just create the sounds in the computer. You also have a lot more sound quality control. You can kind of control getting it sounding exactly the way you want without much hassle. So over time, I got better at developing my drum sound, again, using reference tracks and watching videos on YouTube. So I was able to get my drums sounding really good, and I would just write a beat that kind of matches that guitar tone. So you can hear the guitar riff, that distinctive da-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-bum, ba-ba. So I just wrote a drum beat that kind of matches that same movement. And then you put those two together. And those are the two that really make it start to sound like music. Like, that's when your idea starts coming to life. When you've got the guitar and the drums, it's like, all right, now we feel like we're actually making a song here. It doesn't sound like, if you hear just the drums, it doesn't sound like a song. If you hear the guitar, it just sounds kind of empty, like you don't really understand what you're hearing. And then when you hear them together, it's like, oh, okay, I'm starting to hear what this can be. And then you just kind of stitch them together with the bass. And again, for a long time, I did not know how to make a good bass tone. But over time, again, just watching videos and experimenting, eventually I was able to dial in this bass sound. Which is this really great, gnarly sounding bass. That's one thing I learned too. I used to be so... for lack of a better word, I was such a pansy, I just played things kind of safe. Like, I would do this, like, the weakest, just kind of like safest bass tone. And then eventually I was like, all right, it's time to be, I think it was last year. Last year was when I dialed in this bass tone. I made a few changes, and my word for the year last year was boldness. And I applied that to every area of my life. So when it came to my songs, I was like, I need to be more bold, no more boring bass tone. Let's dial in something gnarly, something distinctive. So we got this really crunchy bass tone that fits really well with the guitar. And then you add the drums, and then those together, that's your foundation for the music, I mean, that just sounds great. It's so punchy. They fit together so well. So that's the foundation. And then I learned about lead guitar actually from playing in the praise band at my church when I was a teenager, kind of getting into my later teenage years. I'd been playing guitar for a while, and again, same brother-in-law. He taught me a lot. I learned so much from my brother-in-law. His name's Jacob, but I really appreciate everything he showed me. But he gave me an opportunity to join the praise band and said, I was thinking you could play lead guitar. And I was like, lead guitar? I was like, am I even good enough? And he's like, yeah, you could do it. And he kind of showed me like a few things. And again, it took me a while to learn, but the job of lead guitar, you're kind of filling in the spaces. You're providing melody. Sometimes it's a melody that sort of starts off the song, and then when the vocals come in, the vocals take over. The vocals take the melody. So you got to back off and let the vocals kind of take over. And then whatever you play, you always want to be supporting the song. You're still supporting the vocals or the main melody. So again, if we listen to the lead guitar by itself, it sounds kind of empty on its own. There it is. And even just hearing that on its own, like those are some dissonant notes, meaning they're very tense. They're creating tension. And that might not sound great on its own, but when you hear it in context, when you hear it with the other parts, that's when it's like, oh, now it makes sense. You know, that's what makes it fit. So that's an example of one layer. And again, same thing as the rhythm guitars. That's actually two guitars, one pan to the left and one pan to the right. So that's one layer there. Again, to be honest, this pad trick, I think this was something, my brother-in-law might have showed me this also, and I might have experimented with this on my own. You know, I used to do a lot of, you know, I've done different styles of music, and so I would experiment with layering different kinds of instruments, and then just listening to music and being inspired. Like it's really easy to hear a song just like the surface level, but then when you stop listening to, like, don't just focus on the main vocals, but start listening in the background, you'll notice some really cool stuff. Like, oh, they're doing something kind of neat there. And you don't notice it if you just kind of listen casually, but when you really focus, that's when that starts to layer in. I'll explain more in just a moment here. Oh, hey, Becky. Hello. My rice crackers are awesome. Did I say that? Who said that? You guys are having some conversation. That was me hopping in out of context. Let's see. Becky was saying hello, and then awesome photos. Yeah, thank you, Silas. Becky, aren't you supposed to be sleeping? Yeah. I got really hungry and had to get a snack, so now I'm up again. Yep. Well, appreciate you tuning in. I'm explaining how I learned about all these layers, like adding all these layers to create music. Silas saying nice. I got these barbecue rice cracker things. I mean, that doesn't sound too bad. Sounds like it could be a nice snack. That's awesome. Oh, I see. Okay. Jack was talking about what I'd learned, like the music stuff, and then Becky was saying my rice crackers are awesome. Yeah, that's really funny. But yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds awesome. Yeah, it sounds like an awesome snack. But yeah, I don't know if Jack was talking about the rice crackers or talking about my explanation for the music. Let's see here. But yeah, Becky making us all hungry. Really cool stuff. And also pray for me and my band that we'll be able to start working on releasing music sooner than later. I'll definitely rooting for y'all, definitely praying for y'all. And all I can say is, just keep trying. Just try not to be perfectionists. But there's nothing wrong with taking some time to develop your craft, you know? And yeah, Becky's absolutely right. You'll do fine, Silas. Everyone has to start somewhere. And the main thing is that you just start. And just take time learning and just try to learn as you go along. Just know this, you will get better. Don't wait till you think you're good enough to do it. Like, just start doing it, and either way, you're going to get better. Even me, I'm still getting better. I really like the last few songs I've put out, and I know I'm going to keep putting out even better songs. And that's something to be excited about. You know, don't be ashamed feeling like you're not good enough yet. Just be excited knowing that you're going to get better, and you'll have record of your progress. So just keep going. You know, Becky's right. You're going to be just fine. Yep, rooting for you, Silas, absolutely. So yeah, the pads, and it's kind of funny, you know, for a while I sort of went back to just the core foundation of just rhythm guitar, bass, drums, and lead guitar. It's really just been lately that I've been bringing the pads back, but I'm starting to love them again. And yeah, it's, you know, pads are, it's one of those simple things that you kind of notice when you listen to songs. If you listen in the background to details. It's just that icing on the cake that just kind of adds a little more character and atmosphere to your track. And then clean guitar, that's not really another layer. It's technically, it's just taking the place of the rhythm guitar. The distorted rhythm guitar stop, and then you switch to something less distorted, and you do this picking part. But what's cool about that, it creates like such a drastic dynamic. You know, even though the drums and bass are kind of doing the same thing, this sounds like a completely different section. You know, that sounds different than even though they're both fundamentally, that they both have the same foundation. And then, yeah, really, there's a few more layers I'll show you in a bit here as we get on with the song. Some of the layers are just called ear candy, and even me, to be honest, sometimes you just have to experiment. Sometimes you just listen to a section and you just say, hey, this is starting to sound a little redundant. How do I keep it interesting? And you try to find some kind of layer or texture or effect that you can add, so that even though it sounds similar, it doesn't sound redundant. You know, that's kind of the purpose of layers. And this is just the music. Once we get into the vocals, it's the same thing. You know, you've got your main vocal, your main melody, and then you bring these other layers in there. You bring harmony parts, or maybe you have the harsh vocals, or even in this song, we've got some whispers and some ahs that we'll get into in a bit here. So yeah, that's the verses, that's the chorus. And then we get to verse 2. Now here's the thing. It's kind of a rule in music. Well, not really a rule, but a good guideline. Verse 2, you don't want it to sound exactly like verse 1. So how do you make it different? Well, have a listen here and you'll hear the difference. So it's about, here's verse 2. So here's what's going on with this section. Once again, you know, if I mute the lead guitars, if I mute the clean, I'm going to mute the pad also. There we go. You know, it's the same foundation, just like the first verse, same bass part, same drum part. That's the same. So how do we make it sound different? Well, this time, instead of going to that clean guitar part, we swap it out, and we've got this lead guitar part, and I'll play that by itself. And writing these lead parts, again, to be honest, it's just trial and error. Like, I don't always settle on the first idea I come up with. I kind of try something, and I'm just looking for those notes that kind of make me go, ooh, that was cool. And I'll play on different parts of the guitar, and I'll try different patterns. And it's honestly just kind of, again, whenever you write a song, it really is more like you discover the song than you make it. It's never, you know, I never say, I know exactly what I need to make. Let me grab this, let me do that. It's never like I know exactly what I'm doing. You're just getting in there and you're just experimenting, and you just kind of see what you discover. And when you discover something that's like, that makes you go, ooh, I kind of like that. You know, that's, you continue down that path, and then you kind of refine it until it comes to something really good. Becky, if you are heading out, I do hope you get some sleep. You're saying, take care, Jack. Always good talking to you. Becky, always appreciate you tuning in. Hope you get some good rest. So what's happening with this lead guitar is just two notes. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm actually doing something kind of cool here. I'm going to grab my guitar to demonstrate this. Again, sometimes these lead parts, they can be really simple. In fact, most of the time, simpler is better. You don't want something too complicated, because it kind of makes things sort of messy and jumbled. I've got my guitar here, and here's the lead part. Now, when you hear it, it probably sounds like this. But I kind of came up with this idea. I thought it'd be cool I knew I was going to record it twice, okay? Like I said, remember, these lead parts and these rhythm parts, a lot of times I'll record it twice. One part will be panned all the way to the left, the other panned all the way to the right. So I thought it'd be kind of cool, I could create this echo effect. What if the left guitar did this? And then the right guitar did like an echo. So it's almost like an echo. You kind of hear da-na-na-na, like left and right. You know, you hear in the left, and then the right echoes. So listen for that. You might not notice unless you're listening on headphones or some kind of stereo source, but the left side does that little da-na first, and then the right side does it. Right here. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool in headphones because you kind of hear it on one side and the other. It kind of feels like it ping-pongs a little bit, this kind of ping-pong effect. So it kind of creates this cool echo sound, which goes with what I was going for. I wanted to create this sort of vibe and this sort of sense of isolation. And that's just such a simple part, but I think because it has that consistent palm muting, that dun 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 dun, it goes well with the drums and the bass. It just kind of creates this nice drive, like this, I don't know, just this cool sense of pulse and energy. Again, just very like vibey and echoey, atmospheric, you know? And it just continues. Okay, so then that was that part. I also liked how after like coming out of the chorus, it kind of contains things a little bit. Like the chorus sounds really big. And then it kind of like shrinks back down. Yeah, so something really cool about that. And then the second half, remember we had those clean guitars creating that tension, and that's what we have here. The clean guitars come back right here. And they're creating that tension. It's actually kind of amazing how much of a difference that makes. If that clean guitar wasn't there, it would just sound like the same thing. Like here it comes. Just sounds like the same thing. But that one part, that one clean guitar part makes it sound different. Creates that tension. So that's a really cool thing about music. Like that's just one instrument part. It shows you the influence that one instrument can have on the whole song. That one part keeps it from sounding redundant, sounding like the same thing, and totally changes the vibe. It gives it like that sense of tension, like it's building up to something. And then we've got our pad in there as well. We still, through all of that, and that adds a lot. Again, continues to create that like sense of echoey ambience and isolation. Without it, it's like kind of dry, and then with it, just nice and spacey. That is that. And then I got to be honest. So then we get into the second course here. And again, this isn't a rule, but a good guideline. Just like you don't want your second verse to sound exactly like your first verse, same thing with the second chorus. You usually don't want your second chorus to sound exactly like your first chorus, and same thing with the third chorus. You don't want your third chorus to sound the same. Well, if you guys have heard this song, one thing you'll notice is this song actually only has 2 choruses. It doesn't have a third chorus, and the reason for that, it's already kind of a vibey track, and it's kind of, I don't want to say redundant, but it's doing that same riff throughout. And I don't know, it just felt right. I knew it needed to change at some point, but once I changed it, it didn't feel like it needed to go back to the chorus. It just felt like once it changed, it was like telling a story, and it kind of felt like it was okay to just keep going this direction and then end the song with the change rather than going back to that course. So that's one thing. There's only 2 courses, so you don't really have to worry that much about making them drastically different. And then the other thing was, it was really I don't even know if I do anything musically to make them different. I think the only way I was able to change it was with the vocals. So there's not like a drastic difference musically. Like if we listen to the music, right here kicks in. You know, there's nothing like hugely different than the first course, but you know, I think this is one of those. I've heard professional songs before. Like, yes, it's nice when you can create some variation, but it's not the end of the world if you can't come up with something. And so I kind of let the vocals bring the variation here. I think we're going to go ahead and look. No, we'll keep going with the music, and then we'll bring the vocals in. So check this out. So here we get to the end of the course, and then at this point I was like, all right, I love this riff. It's been playing out great, but now it's starting to feel like it's overstaying its welcome a little bit. It's like I can't just stay here. Now we need to change. And I got kind of a fun little, I don't know, sneak peek thing to share with you, or behind the scenes thing to share with you. So let's listen to this next section. So I love this change, and I knew something needed to change, but I wasn't sure what. So I knew the song had been very consistent. Again, the drums and the bass have been playing like the whole time, so I knew they needed to fade out. So if we listen to just the drums and the bass, you hear that they come to a stop. And then it just kind of, this nice little pause, the drums kind of just keep the pulse, you know? And then I knew it could build up and kick into something. But I wasn't sure what yet. I still needed to write something. So I knew it needed to go soft and then build back up. So check this out. This was actually one of the riffs that I wrote for it. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you guys. So I'm going to play the chorus, and then I'll go into this other riff. Let's see here. Let me get my guitar. Okay, so where are we at here? Let me go back a little further. That doesn't help. Hold on. One more time. I want to play it and then go into it so you can hear it. Darn, I'm so used to the actual song. Let me try that one more time. Man, if I could play it. So I kind of messed up on it, but let me know if that riff sounds familiar to you guys. Let me know if that riff sounds familiar. Anyone know? That was something I wrote as an original idea. For you? Nope, not for you. Love the arrangement and the details. Thanks, Silas. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Again, if you ever have any questions, just let me know. You can ask whatever you'd like. It's not for you, but yeah, let me know if something about that riff sounds familiar. And I don't know if maybe no one recognizes it, but I'll kind of sing along with it. So, sorry, turned my guitar off. Yeah, let me try that again. Still untossed away like a plastic cup. Something inside of me. Yeah, so that's the breakdown riff for Plastic Cup. Basically, when I was working on this song, I was trying to figure out what I wanted it to do, and I came up with a few different ideas. One of the ideas I came up with was that riff. Plastic Cup. Yep, that's right, Becky. And one of the ideas I came up with was that riff, and I felt like it wasn't right for this song, but it sounded so cool. I was like, man, that's such a good riff. So I was like, let me keep that. And later, it ended up working out for Plastic Cup. So again, that's kind of how the songwriting process goes. You try stuff, and sometimes you come up with something and it doesn't work for this song, but sometimes it's a cool idea, and you just keep track of it and keep it in mind for another song. What I did end up writing was this little guitar riff. Ended up coming up with this part. Just and again, it's kind of hard to say. Like, I was literally just experimenting with different ideas, and somehow I came across that idea, or I came across some notes. And, I found those notes that make me go, ooh, I kind of like that. And then you just kind of keep playing with them until you refine them into what becomes the finished riff. So if we listen to the guitar part. There we go. There's that single guitar part. And I really like that because there's some really unique chord changes there that are happening. So, that's kind of some music theory stuff. Not that I'm using any theory when I do this. I just know that I'm hitting notes that are outside of scale, or I'm changing keys as I'm playing it. So I really like doing that kind of stuff. And finding a way to do it where it doesn't sound too bizarre, and it still sounds catchy. Like, I like the melody that goes over top of this part. Once again, I talked about being dynamic. Everything sounded big, so we need to go small again. So that's why we come from this big sound. We've got the full band. Let me bring the band back. And then it goes to just this one single guitar, just this kind of crunchy guitar straight up the middle. So this big band. All that, and then to just a nice single guitar. And then we've kind of got the drums keeping the pulse. Now check this out. So the drums are keeping the pulse. And this is all nice, But I wanted it to kick in hard, and I felt like it needed to sort of build up. Like it was feeling a little redundant. So there's a few things that we have. One, we bring our pad back. You'll notice in the second half, this pad comes in. Hear it? Like, it's very soft, but we get that pad in there, just kind of building a little bit of anticipation. And then it cuts. That's the first thing. And then this next trick I got from Chevelle. And it's kind of funny. I've tried this trick so many times and haven't been able to make it work. I think this is the first song I've been able to do it. But in a lot of Chevelle songs, especially their earlier stuff, they would do a lot of pick scrapes. They would take their guitar pick and scrape it on the strings and get these really cool kind of clanky textures. So that's what we have right here. And I've tried it before, and I could just never, yes, I've done pick slides, but they were a little bit cleaner, not the same way like Chevelle does it. Here we go. So it's this very, like, it kind of starts almost on one side before the other. You get this kind of like back and forth. Like it creates sort of a sense of width. And it was really tricky just to find the right amount. Like I didn't want it to be too distracting, but I wanted it to create that like that tension and that anticipation. Whoops. And then it cuts suddenly. But that's something, you know, we just call that ear candy. That's the name for it. So ear candy is when you add little sounds like that just to make a section a little more interesting. So here is without the pick scrapes. And here is with the pick scrapes. Hear how it kind of just feels like the song is like, and then like about to, like it just kind of builds that tension. So it's amazing how it's just such a subtle thing, but something like that can really add so much character to a moment. It's almost like a little bit of sound design, you know, if you think about it. It's not just ear candy or just coming up with another musical layer. It's sound design, creating like a sense of atmosphere and kind of putting visuals, you know, trying to create visuals with sound, if that makes sense. Let's see here. And then synth, we use that same synth pad that we used in the course, but now we've got a different riff, so we're just hitting a different note with it. I think it's just holding a single note. There we go, yep. Just that one note. And again, that just creates a nice sense of movement. But all this is really, you know, it's the same structure as the course, but it's just a different riff. Oh, I like that clanky part there. Like, let's listen to that. That was just, you know, that's just harmonics on the guitar. And it's just two of them pan left and right. And yeah, so basically just, I'll grab my guitar. Sometimes, sometimes it's just kind of fun to experiment with different sounds. And if you just touch the guitar strings lightly, like with your finger, and then you strum, you can get these kind of, like that's pretty good, these kind of clanky sounds. You can move around. So I was just looking for something kind of clanky, just this like, you know, just to create this very explosive, very like punk rock metal kind of sound, you know, just like building up and then, yeah, just something kind of hardcore. So that's what I came up with. And I love the way it blends in with the snare. So it's, I don't know, I love it. Sounds cool. It just makes that moment, you know, it kind of sounds like the chick chick boom, you know, it's like the cocking before you pull the trigger, you know. And then that big explosion right there. And then Becky was commenting, I liked that part when you played Send the Pain Below. It might have been, I don't know if it was a pick scrape that you're talking about, because yeah, there's definitely, I mean, there's probably something similar in Send the Pain Below. There's probably like a pick scrape or some kind of, you know, chimey stuff in there as well. But, because yeah, Chevelle kind of does a lot of that stuff. It's a fun thing to do. It's fun to kind of use the guitar and just kind of make some cool noises rather than, you know, rather than just playing like a guitar part, just sort of experimenting and seeing what textures you can create. So this section kind of continues for a bit, and then later we get this lead part coming in. Oh, there's two cool things that happen. So it continues, and then this lead guitar part's going to come in right here. And I don't know how to explain it, but I kind of like something about the chords sound kind of dark. Like, not the lead part. Like somehow the chords sound sort of dark, and then the lead part sounds like it brings in like some hope, if that makes sense. So, like this sounds kind of dark, you know, maybe a little scary. And then the melody comes in and it's almost kind of happy, like, you know, or like hopeful. So it's a really cool blend. Yeah, I don't know. It's I can't really explain what's going on there. I was just using my ear, but I'm just pleased with how that came out. You've kind of got this sort of dark undertone and then this sort of like sense of hope when that melody comes in. So I like how the song, it almost feels hopeless, like you got that single guitar. This is like the down moment, like just almost like giving up or feeling a little defeated. And then like kind of digging your heels in. And then like hanging in there, like fighting. And then your hope is restored. And it's like you're just carrying on, you know? So, and then one last thing. I remember when I was playing this, as I heard this part, in my head, I could hear like these industrial drums, like this, like this very industrial machine kind of beat. And, well, that's what I got. So I don't know if any of you ever noticed that, but it's in there. Like, you know, you can definitely hear it. And I don't know if you guys could hear that, like, oh, that's cool. There's like that industrial beat, or if you never noticed. But here's what it sounds like by itself. Again, just like this very machinery kind of beat. Now, I'll be honest. So how did I make that? How did I get that? Okay. There is a brand called Nail the Mix, and it's a brand. It teaches people how to make music, like how to produce rock and metal music. And a lot of times, like once a month, they'll have a guest. They'll have someone like a professional artist come in, and they will mix a song. They'll do a live stream where they mix the song for you, and show you how they got the sounds. And if you sign up for it and pay for the course, you get access to all the individual tracks that they use. So you get access to their guitar tracks, their drum tracks, all that stuff. So Silosis, some of you know Silosis is a favorite band of mine. They did a Nail the Mix, so I was like, I got to do that. And so I got all these tracks, and one of their songs, they used this industrial beat. Now, the industrial beat, I think it was either slower or faster. I can't remember. It wasn't the same time. But it was like, oh, that's cool. I thought it was just cool how they used that beat. Then later I was working on this song, and I was thinking like, man, I could hear that industrial beat in my head. Like, that would sound really cool in this song. And I was like, how am I going to make that? And then I was like, wait a second, you know, I think that Silosis song had an industrial beat. And I went to listen, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty much perfect. It's just not the right tempo. But I was able to bring it into my editor, and there's some kind of like time warp thing. You can take audio files, and you can either stretch them out and make them faster, or squeeze them and stretch it out, make it slower, or squeeze them and make them faster. And so I was able to manipulate it a little bit and get it to match the timing of my song. So thank you, Silosis. You know, it's thank you for giving me a little drum loop beat that I could use. And I think that's the first time I've ever done sampling. I think that's what it's called. So sampling, people do this all the time. It's when you take a sample from other songs or other sounds, and then you manipulate it and recreate it to use it in your own sound. So that's the only time I've ever done that. So it just kind of saved some time. Yeah, it sounded really good. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I love that. Yeah, so here, I'll play that section again. Here it is. Well, let's listen to the industrial beat with the lead guitar. So it just kind of creates this nice like head bob, stompy kind of thing. And then check it out. So I'm going to play that section. I'm going to play it without the industrial beat, and then I'll add it in there. And it's just kind of cool what it adds. It just adds some nice character, and it kind of makes the song feel like it's coming to a conclusion, like, you know, like a big finale or something, you know. So this is without. So, you know, it sounds good, it sounds cool, but adding that industrial beat just takes it to another level. Like, it gets that, like, head bob kind of. And there's something kind of tribal about the beat, if that makes sense. You know, it's kind of gives me like, I'll show you in a second. Yeah, just kind of like a tribal. You could hear like a, you know, ooh, like it's kind of silly, but I mean, it sounds cool. It's like, you know, it's kind of intense, kind of intimidating, and I don't know. I love the way that sounds. So it sounds really cool with it. And then we get to the end of the song, and we just kind of have this really, kind of this very dramatic, like sudden stop. So everything's like really big, and then just like that, it just, you know, kind of ends. So I had to tweak that. If let me mute the lead guitar. So it sounds fine, but if you listen to the first time the music cuts out, so like when we first go into the bridge, listen to like the drums and listen to how there's like a sense of ambience, like there's like reverb, like that kind of rings out. Yeah, one second. I don't know if you can tell, but especially those drums, listen how the drums, like the cymbals are still ringing out after they've been hit. Like you can still hear them, they're still ringing out. Now listen to the drums at the end here. It just kind of, you know, it doesn't ring out as long. It still sounds kind of natural, but it doesn't have that big echoey effect. It sounds like it all of a sudden goes into like a small room, and I really like that sound. It's just something kind of dramatic about like really big and then just kind of this like just shrinks. And then that last lead guitar really does a lot to kind of, like that sounds kind of sudden, and then the lead guitar kind of draws your attention. Like that, you know, that little slide. So I love the way that plays out. Yeah, I think, appreciate the honesty. I've been probably laughing at my tribal chanting and stuff, but, oh, and the honesty about maybe using, you know, the drum beat from Silosis or whatever. But I appreciate it. You know, that's my little tribute to them. All right, so real quick, I'm probably going to have to wrap this up soon, but I am going to talk about the vocals. The basic arrangement for this was kind of simple, so I really had to rely on the vocals to bring in some variation. And one second, I just realized, yeah, I think I accidentally cut out the section. Sorry, yeah. There's some cool stuff going on with vocals, which, by the way, I don't know, why is that not working? Okay, there we go. Sorry, yeah, I had cut a section short. Oh, that's so frustrating. Not sure why that's not. Try again. It's being a little finicky. Sorry about that. Okay. So there's kind of some cool layers here, and I'll give you a little snippet. I actually think, I don't know, there's something kind of satisfying about listening to vocal layers in isolation. And so I think I'm actually going to post a video of the vocal layers only. And I'll be curious how people react. I don't know if they'll think it's cool or if they won't care at all. But it's, you know, I guess you could call it an acapella video. It's not really acapella, but there's just some really cool vocal layers happening here. And I think it's neat to break them down. So let's look at the verse. So here are the main vocals. So we kind of just have these, you know, simple vocals. They're kind of isolated. There's some delay on there. You always meant well, so you say.
only wanted to keep me safe.
And you'll notice, you can hear it, I'll add a tail at the end of certain words, so it kind of, this like little boost of an echo. So listen to, you always meant well, so you say, you'll hear this little say, this like little extra echo.
And well, so you say.
Say.
Only
Same thing on the word safe.
wanted to keep me safe.
It's kind of like a little boost, and it kind of echoes around a little bit. There's a name for that. I'm drawing a blank on what it's called right now. I can't remember, but it's a trick. You kind of cut out like the last word of a sentence, and you drag it in, and it just kind of fills in that empty space so that the vocals don't just disappear. They kind of linger a little bit longer. And then here's a really cool technique. It's kind of funny when you record this. It almost feels a little cheesy when you record it, but it sounds really good. I have some whispers in here. Check it out. So here's what the whispers sound like with the vocals. They're only on certain words.
Always meant well, so you say. Only wanted to keep me safe.
So it's really funny because like when you're recording whispers, you feel a little awkward, like saying the word, so you say, you know? But when you do a bunch of recordings and you layer them together and then you add like echo on it and blend it in, it creates kind of this sort of haunting, like ghost kind of sound. And one thing I sort of learned when working on this song, rather than doing just a straight up whisper like, so you, well, I'm kind of doing it already. So you say. It's nice to kind of get a little bit of texture in your throat. It's almost like a fake scream. So you say. You know, do it more like that. It gives it a little more body, makes it a little more ghostly. And when you layer that together, you just kind of get a fuller sound. So you say. So it's kind of cool. It's like, it's sort of haunting, you know? Again, it kind of feels cheesy when you're making it, but it's got a really nice haunting effect, and when you add it with the music, it just blends in nicely.
You always meant well, so you say. Only wanted to keep me safe.
And I try to blend it in just enough, so it's definitely there to fill in, especially if you're wearing like headphones. It fills in that space, but it's not like super obvious, like, oh, there's a whisper. Yeah, Becky laughing saying, that actually sounds scary on its own. Yeah, it's kind of scary on its own, but it blends in there like really nicely. Again, I think ghostly is kind of the best way to add it. So, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm like voice acting more than singing when I do something like that. In the first lyric, you're talking to the voice in your head, wanting to keep you safe. The song is talking to fear. That's what it is. It's talking to fear. You always meant well, so you say, only wanted to keep me safe. Because that's what fear is. And yeah, it is kind of a voice in our head. Whenever there's something in our head that says, you know, that might be dangerous, or you shouldn't do that, or maybe that won't work out, you know? Like your brain, I've heard someone explain this before, like your brain is actually, it doesn't really care about your happiness. It's just trying to protect you, you know? And sometimes it doesn't know what's best for you. Like anything that's unfamiliar or uncomfortable, your brain's like, maybe we shouldn't do that, you know? Your brain kind of wants to keep you from doing that. And so sometimes you have to kind of fight against that. So that's what it's talking about. It's a lot of people, it actually kind of frustrates me, but you can hear it. Sometimes when people say like, you shouldn't do that or you should do that, you can tell whether or not it's motivated by smarts or motivated by fear. And a lot of times it's motivated by fear. A lot of times it'll be fear. And that's what it is. It's like, you always meant well, so you say, only wanted to keep me safe. And then the song goes on to say, but your hold just keeps getting tighter and I'm growing old. So that's kind of the point of the song. It's like this voice that, you know, the conscience that's kind of like trying to keep you safe, and that, like, it means well, like it just doesn't want you to get hurt, it doesn't want you to fail, or doesn't want you to take a risk that doesn't work out. But after a while, like especially as you get older, you're just kind of like, what am I doing with my life? You know, I feel like I can achieve so much more, and I'm just letting fear keep me from stepping out. And so that's kind of goes on to say, you know, farewell to fear. And that's the point. It's like getting you know, putting up with it for a while, you know, putting up with fear for a while. But then after a while, it's just like, I can't take this anymore. I'm not going to let you dictate my life anymore. You know, I'm moving on. So the next vocal layer we have for the next line is some harmony, just a single mono harmony straight up the middle. And this just kind of adds some variation. So
to keep me safe. But your hold just keeps getting tighter, and I'm growing your safe. But your hold
it's
just
just a harmony part.
keeps getting tighter, and I'm growing your
And yeah, we still got the whispers in there on keep getting tighter.
keeps getting tighter.
Yeah, so it kind of blends in there. Kind of cool when you add all the vocals.
But your hold just keeps getting tighter, and I'm growing your
So those harmonies do a lot. Like I'll play it one more time, I'll mute it, and you know, it just kind of sounds like more of the same, just the main vocal.
safe. But your hold just keeps getting tighter, and I'm growing your
So, you know, it sounds fine, but yeah, when you add that harmony, it creates a sense of anticipation. Like it feels like the song's going somewhere.
safe. But your hold just keeps getting tighter, and I'm growing old.
And then basically this first chorus, almost every time I get to a chorus, I always add doubles. So here's what the doubles sound like by themselves. I put them together. Basically a double is, it's the same main vocal, but it's just turned down a little bit quieter, and you just kind of blend it in. So it's two recordings of the same singing part. And then I'll do another one that's an octave lower. So I'm singing the same part, but lower.
Farewell to fair
So you can hear it.
and good luck.
There's that higher one.
to me.
Hey, what's the point of life? And then the lower one. If you won't play the game.
I refuse.
And that just kind of gives a little more body if you blend it in with the main vocal.
So farewell to fair and good luck to me.
Like you can hear how small it sounds on its own.
And
I blend it in.
If you won't play the game.
So it just gives a little more body, a little more fullness to that vocal. And then you add the harmonies. Now, the first chorus, I like to be a little spare with the harmonies. So they kind of come in and then they sit back, and then they come in and then sit back.
Old. So farewell to fair and good luck.
So it's really just on the words farewell, good luck, what's the point. It's only on a few words that you hear the harmonies.
Old. So farewell to fair and good luck to me. What's the point of life if you won't play the game? I refuse to live in this misery. So farewell to fair and good luck to me.
So those are the harmonies, and just a few like lines. It just adds a lot to make it more exciting. And then the last texture that I'll add in choruses, if I can, I like to add some harsh vocals in there. So here's with the harsh vocals, just the main vocal and harsh vocal.
Old. So farewell to fair and good luck to me. What's the point of life if you won't
And right here.
play the game? I refuse to live and the
So all I did, I remember the harsh vocals were kind of tricky. I couldn't figure out how to make them work, but I ended up just holding that word, so farewell, and just hold that word out.
old. So farewell to fair and good luck.
So it kind of adds like sort of some sustain to that note. And then same thing on I refuse. You've got that screaming vocal just saying I refuse.
Old. So farewell to fair and good luck to me. What's the point of life if you won't
Here on
play
I
the
refuse.
game? I refuse to
I might have him on that last part, so farewell and good luck. Let me see if I have the harsh vocals on that.
Sorry, so farewell to fair and good luck to.
I don't think I have it. If I do, it's super quiet. Yeah, I don't think I had it there. So again, usually the first course, I don't do too many vocals, and that's pretty common. Like, you don't go overboard. And then the second course, you'll have more vocal layers. So you'll see that comparison in just a moment here. In the verse, we go small again, just a single voice. Back to our single voice and whispers.
I can't keep hiding anymore. I need to break out of
And harmonies.
There's a fire deep down inside me, but it's getting cold.
But there's one more element in there, one new element that I add. And I've been playing with these more lately, adding ahs. It might have been a mirror that was broken. I can't remember if I did any ahs in Plastic Cup, but a mirror that was broken.
Of this show.
But I've been kind of doing more of these like kind of background group vocals, just singing like oohs and ahs and that kind of thing. And again, it's amazing how much something that simple can add. So I'm going to play that part one more time. So first without, and then listen what it adds.
Of this show. There's a fire deep down inside me.
All right, same section. Now I'm going to add it back.
Need to break out of this show. There's a fire deep down inside me.
And I don't know. It's amazing how, like, it's very subtle, but it makes a huge difference, you know? It doesn't ask for attention. Like, maybe when you first listen to the song, you don't even notice it there. You're not like, oh, there's some, like, background ahs, you know? It just kind of feels like it blends in with the music, and it's just with the atmosphere and the vibe. But again, if you take it out, the section isn't nearly as interesting. It kind of fills in the space between the vocals, like where the vocals are resting. So it's like, I love that kind of stuff about adding layers. And then if we listen to the second course is pretty much the same, but there's more harmonies, and I think there's more harsh vocals. So I'm going to play just the vocals, and we'll hear the difference. So you're probably going to hear that long "so farewell," that long scream, but then I think there's going to be more harsh vocals, and I think the harmonies are going to keep going.
So farewell to fair and good luck to me. What's the point of life if you won't play the game? I refuse to live in this misery. Farewell to fair and good luck to me. Don't be.
So I remember that was a little tricky to work with. Again, it was hard to figure out where I wanted the harsh vocals to be. So first off, the harmonies are now singing the whole time.
Farewell to fair and good luck to me. What's the point of life?
But even though they're singing the whole time, I remember I had to tweak that a little bit. Because a lot of times harmonies, you can follow the main melody, but sometimes there's a certain note, like you can just stay on that one note, and that's almost a little less distracting. Like if the harmony's doing too much, it can almost confuse the listener into wondering, like, what is the melody? You know, you can get the two parts mixed up. So it's almost better sometimes for the harmony. It depends. Like, are you trying to highlight the harmony, or is the harmony just there to support the main vocal? And in this case, I wanted the main vocal to stick out. The harmony's just another layer to support it. So I kind of tried to stick to some of the same notes.
To fair and good luck to me.
So that da-na, kind of staying on that same note there. And then the harsh vocals, it was really just finding the right words that just felt good to add like a scream behind.
What's the point
like right here.
If you won't play the game, I refuse to live in this misery.
So like that sounds good, like on Misery right there.
And this misery. Farewell.
And then just these last few words.
And good luck. Good luck too.
So just kind of adding some extra punch to those words. And then we make the switch here.
Don't be.
And there's kind of an overlap. So I use this telephone vocal for that last word, that me, and then the main vocal becomes very small, you know, it kind of becomes very vulnerable. Like if you listen to the main vocal, it's going to sound very, you know, ambient and echoey, like you can hear all that reverb, and then it's going to get very small and kind of intimate and vulnerable.
Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure.
So I wanted it to get kind of small and vulnerable, and then it's going to, you know, build up and kick in. Here comes that scream. Becky, if you're still out there, I know you like this.
Hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for. Don't be afraid.
And so here's what that sounds like with the other layers. I think I've got a couple other screams blend in with that, or blended in.
Just waiting for. Don't be afraid. Just hold.
And I love this harmony part. It's hard to explain. I call it a fifth harmony. It's almost like the same thing as doing a bar chord on a guitar. But let me just play those, the main vocal and the harmonies. This is like one of my favorite types of harmony.
Don't be afraid. Just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. Don't be.
Hear how it's kind of like, I don't know, like droney and almost robotic a little bit, but I mean it in a good way. There's just something really cool, kind of dark sounding about it. I don't know, that's like my favorite harmony, kind of harmony part. So we'll listen to those vocal layers. Here we are coming out of the chorus.
And good luck too. Don't be afraid.
Thank you, Silas.
Just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for. Don't be afraid. Just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
It's funny, so that kind of harmony, it doesn't work for every type of song. Like something that already kind of has a dark mood to it like this works great for that. But sometimes people do this harmony on accident. Like when I'm, you know, like at church, if someone's singing a praise and worship song and they're looking for a harmony part and they find this kind of harmony, it's like, it does not work as well, you know? So it's one of those things like, it doesn't always work, but when it does work, I love it. It sounds really cool. But thank you, Silas, saying sounds really good. You sound great. Thank you so much. And thank you for the hearts, Becky. And let's see here. I think we just got a few more vocal layers, and we're kind of repeats just that line. Again, it starts very like timid and vulnerable, and then it builds up, and now it's like, you know, very determined. Again, you know, if you listen to the words, don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. And it just repeats, and that's the belief. It's like, I'm not going to be afraid anymore. I'm going to have faith. I know there's adventure out there, and it's that hope for adventure and that kind of determination to go out there and find it.
Oh, there's adventure just waiting for me. Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith.
And again, you can hear kind of those screams in there on certain words.
Afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
I added the lead guitar.
Waiting for me. Waiting for me. Don't be afraid. just hold on to faith.
And then this is like the big finale, so wanted a lot of vocals here, so we've got more screaming in there.
Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
And then like we have all these vocals and then it gets small again, so we just have the single me at the very end. But there's one other layer that I add in there. So that harmony part, don't be afraid, it's actually kind of low. And so part of me, when I was recording, I was like, I might be able to do that higher. So sure enough, I recorded that same harmony part an octave higher. And here's what that sounds like.
Don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for.
And then no me, because it just cuts to the single vocal. So again, that's the same. Here's both the harmony parts.
Be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting.
And then here they are with the main vocal.
Me, don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
And so it just kind of adds like one final dose of intensity, you know.
Me, don't be afraid, just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
And then lastly with the music, so this is the big finale, like this is the climax of the song, and then it just kind of shrinks to just kind of a dramatic ending, you know. So here's what all that sounds like. There we go, and that's pretty much all the layers there. That's all there is to it. So, guys, I hope you all found this interesting. It's definitely getting late. I wanted to finish discussing the vocals, but I think we're going to put a wrap on this. So thank you for hanging out. Becky, my goodness, if you're still up, I really appreciate you hanging out, but please get yourself some rest. I hope you rest well, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Last thing I will share with you all, if you enjoy these streams and you want to continue to help me to make more songs like this one and put them out there, I just posted a link, and it's also pinned at the top to show some support. A couple things you can do. One, if you just want to stay notified, just the next time I put out a song, if you want to know when the video comes out, I'm putting out a music video on Monday, sign up for my email list. That link, you can sign up at the bottom. There's a spot to sign up for my email list. And then secondly, if you want to show some support, again, there's a virtual tip jar in that link, and I appreciate anything you're willing to provide. And then there's also merch if you want to get yourself a cool shirt or hoodie or something like that. Well, hoodie, I know it's getting hot, so maybe get yourself a sleeveless shirt or a ball cap or something like that. But I definitely appreciate that, your support for that. Thanks for the great stream, Quincy. My pleasure, Becky. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out. And I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Until next time.